Welcome back. In this session, we are going to look at alerts. We can use alerts to inform about any kind of activity within our data factory. So, for example, we would want to know about any failures within our pipelines, our triggers, or activities, or even some cases, we might want to know a pipeline has succeeded as well. So in order to establish those, we can create alerts. So you come into the Data Factory Monitor tab and then click on Alerts and Metrics and then click on New Alert Rule to create an alert. So I'm going to call my alert al_trigger failures because I'm going to trigger this alert when there is a failure in any of our triggers. So the next thing to do is you can set a description here. I'm going to leave that as blank, and then you want to specify the severity of this alert. In my case, I'm going to set it to 0 because I think it's a high severity when there is a trigger failure because we don't have data for our end consumers. And once you've done that, you've got two things to do. One is to create the target criteria, and the other one is to configure the notification. So to do the target criteria, you click on Add Criteria. It lists all the metrics available within the data factory. So in our case, we want to pick the metric where there is a trigger failure. So which is failed trigger runs metrics, and then you want to configure that. But if you wanted to configure others, like canceled activities, or canceled triggers, or even successful trigger runs, then you can pick any of those from here. Let's pick the one for the failed trigger runs metrics and click Continue. And it quite helpfully gives you the failed trigger runs within the last 6, 12, or 24 hours. So you can pick the right trigger from here and then configure the notification from that one. In our case, what we want to do is we want to pick the trigger which ingests the ECDC data for any failures. So let's pick that one. But if you wanted to pick all triggers, then you can do that as well. So I'm going to go for this one. And failure type. You can choose specific type of failures or any kind of failures. So I'm going to go for all failures here. So let's do that. And now we want to specify the logic. So do you want to know about every failure, or do you want to know about a failure when that's happened more than once? So in this case, we want to know about any kind of failure. So we can say if the metric value is more than 0, that is, you got the first failure itself, you want to know about it, then we can get the failure. Now, you specify the window, so you've specified there that, for example, if we said actually my threshold is 1, so I don't want to know about the first failure, I want to know about everything after that. You still want to specify the window. So do you want to know about the failures within a 24 hours window, or within the last 10 minutes window, or a 1 hour window? So, in this case, we are going to go for the default of 1 minute, and also we want to check every minute whether there is a failure. So that's what these two specify. So I'm going to put that back into 0. So that means we'll get every failure notified and click on Add Criteria. So now that we've specified our target criteria, if you want to add another criteria, you can add that as well. So, for example, if you wanted to monitor the pipeline ones as well, then you add another criteria. The next thing to do is to configure the notification. So click on Configure Notification. We need to specify the action group name and the short names. I'm going to go for COVID Support Project, and we need a short name as well. So I'm going to call it a COVID sup here. Now we need to add a notification. So let's click on Add Notification. And we want to name our action. In this case, we are going to send an email, so I'm going to call that as Email Send. And then we want to tick the email, and you need to specify your email address. If you wanted to get SMS and/or app push notifications or voice message from Microsoft, then you can tick these things as well. But in our case, we are going to keep it simple and send an email. And now click Add Notification. So we got the notification added, we got the action group to create. So click on the Add Action Group. So that should create the action group. And now we got everything configured. So we got the target criteria, we got the notification set, and we can specify whether we want to enable the rule creation or rule upon creation. I'm going to do that. Otherwise, you can turn it off and turn it on later on and then click on the alert rule. So that should create the alert rule. Okay, now the alert's been created. So from now I'm going to get an email for every trigger failure within our data factory. If you wanted to turn it off, you can click on here to turn it off. And this is to turn it on, and you can delete your alerts afterwards, or you can change the alerts as well. So that's how we create alerts within Data Factory. So that's the end of this session, but in the next session, we are going to break one of our triggers so that we get a notification into our email. And also we can come in and monitor the dashboards and rerun the failed trigger. I'll show you all of that in the next session. I'll see you then.